Hello and welcome to the debate. I'm your host Sana Maqbool with you at PTV World. In today's show, we will be talking about the developments of the day today, the highlight of which is, of course, the Supreme Court's decision regarding the arrest of the PTI chairman and former Prime Minister Imran Khan, which the Supreme Court has declared as illegal, and the authorities have been asked to release him. He's going to be kept at the Police Lines Guest House till his appearance at the Islamabad High Court tomorrow at 11 a.m. He was earlier refused the access to go back to his home in Banigala, but in the case that proceeded and the hearing that took place, a couple of interesting instances also took place in terms of the exchange between the Chief Justice of Pakistan and the PTI chairman as he was presented, and then of course the discussion with regards to what is going on in the country. A lot of the ruckus and protests that we have seen in the past 2 days or so unfortunately have resulted in the loss of many lives, injuries to many others, and damage to public property. And this is important in terms of what is going on in the country and how the people have reacted to the arrest of the PTI chairman and who's accountable for it. Earlier, we also saw the ISPR also speaking with regards to the actions of the protesters on May 9th, calling it a black day, and also talking about how those who have been responsible for such violence and damage are identified and will be held accountable. And of course, a lot of that also remains as a question in terms of what sort of accountability exists and how this particular matter is going to be proceeded with, and what role will the political party of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf and its leaders, and particularly the PTI chairman, will be playing in this regard. The PTI chairman, on his part, has claimed that he was unaware of the situation and his phone was taken away, and he did not know what was going on in the country and did not intend his supporters to carry out any violence or to incite the public. What he wants is free and fair elections, is what he has spoken about in the court today as well. We, of course, also know that the proceedings will resume in the Islamabad High Court tomorrow, the court that had earlier declared legal the arrest of the PTI chairman. But we also know, of course, that this is a moment which is being celebrated by the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. But at the same time, there have been a lot of criticism coming in from the current political setup as well, with PMLN leaders also criticizing the decision of the Supreme Court and the statements made by the Chief Justice of Pakistan as well. So we're going to be taking a closer look at what the legal procedures are as a next step forward, how the court's proceedings moved forward today, and what sort of impact it's going to have on the PTI chairman's appearance in the court tomorrow, and then of course with regards to the political situation of the country as well, and the way that the institutions' involvement have also been part of the public narrative and the PTIs as well. So we're going to take this forward in the show today, and for this and more, as always, in the studios I've been joined by senior analyst Farrukh Pitafi. We've also been joined in the studios by Barrister Safi, Ghauri, who's also a political analyst. Thank you very much for joining us in the studios. And we've been joined online by Mr. Usama, Khawar, Ghumman, who's a law professor at LUMS and advocate High Courts of Pakistan. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being a part of the debate. So let me start with you, Barrister Safi. With regards to what has happened today in the court, I also want to understand this in light of how the Islamabad High Court had earlier declared the same arrest as illegal. And after about 2 days, we saw that the Supreme Court of Pakistan has now come forward and issued an order with regards to the illegality of this particular case. So what do you think about what has been interpreted by the Islamabad High Court that made this statement come out as illegal prior to this decision today?
Right. So I think, Sana, before we comment on anything, we have to identify and agree that this order that has come out by the Supreme Court today is exceptional by every mean. This is the first time in Pakistan's history, that an order was given in this speed on a matter that has been declared as legal, bail that was rejected by the Accountability Court, by the High Court, multiple courts having dismissed it, and suddenly the Supreme Court of Pakistan holding it legal in a record time. So the exceptional nature of this case remains. It is something that many legal experts are talking about. It is something that not just legal experts in Pakistan, but a lot of legal experts in India are commenting on. I've been very surprised to see the hot jurisprudential debate going on in India, who are now thinking that Pakistani courts have gone far beyond the ambits of CRPC, which, by the way, we share with India. So that's besides the point. You know, talking about the exceptional nature of it does make it an extraordinary case in the sense that it's not strictly legal. Then we have to then agree that there were political overtures to this case, and because of those political reasons, this case should not be viewed in isolation of what the law is. The law should be the same for all. we know that this is not the case in this case. You know, we know that a very separate sort of a law has been applied. Now, as far as the deviation from Islamabad High Court is concerned, I personally find the news stories that have emerged to be very concerning. Firstly, because whereas the Islamabad High Court did say that it was legal, but there was a procedural matter. Nobody, by the way, even the Supreme Court of Pakistan does not say that the warrants themselves were issued in a malified manner. This has never been the question. Nobody is saying that NAB did not have the power to arrest. That's not an issue either. The only real issue that is being discussed here is why they were arrested in High Court premises. I find that to be interesting and amusing, because I have myself seen countless arrests. I have, for instance, myself with my own eyes witnessed the arrest of Miftah Ismail in the Islamabad High Court. Many other people who have been arrested. In fact, courts have long been a fertile ground for arrest, because police would know that this is where somebody would definitely show up for a hearing.
Right.
So, but regardless, I do pay heed to the fact that, you know, the manner of arrest in itself was high-handed. 90 people coming into the court, storming it, breaking windows, those things that spoil the dignity of a court should not have been done. And to that end, I do agree with the Supreme Court that there must be measures taken that rectify that. Now, the Islamabad High Court Chief Justice did in fact speak about that in his order, did constitute a committee, and did say that those who have perpetuated violence within the High Court need to be taken care of, and he gave a deadline of 16th May, which is just a few days away. For some reason, once again, whilst a proceeding is going on in the High Court, whilst a proceeding is going on in the NAB Court, the Supreme Court, just like it had previously taken over a proceeding that was going on in the Lahore High Court, has decided to give its own opinion on the matter. And whereas it has, in a sense, not using the word, but in a sense, it has sent the matter back to, remanded the matter back to the Islamabad High Court. And this is, once again, this is media reports. This is something that I am not aware of. I have read the order. It does not say that in the order. But they have said that they do not want the matter to be fixed before the Chief Justice of Islamabad High Court, and instead want the matter to be fixed before a cherry-picked bench. Once again, unprecedented. I have never seen these things before, and I don't understand how the Chief Justice of his own accord could make the Attorney General of Pakistan the guarantor of an individual security. Once again, something that I've never heard of or seen before, especially when no consent was given to act as a guarantor. Many interesting aspects to this case, and it all comes down to the same matter that an extraordinary relief has been given here. Somebody to a politician, he was told in the court that he is very important. We need to just completely take away from our minds the idea that the law that is to be applied to me, to any other ordinary citizen of Pakistan, is being applied here. This has never happened. I have never witnessed it. I have myself witnessed trials of Nawaz Sharif, of Zardari, but this is beyond extraordinary treatment that has been meted out. Perhaps it's a good thing. Perhaps, you know, this will lead to other courts moving with a similar pace. Perhaps they will also start granting extraordinary reliefs to other people. Maybe this precedent will be helpful. But it's too early to comment on any of these things.
All right, Mr. Usama, I want to talk a little bit more about what the CJP, the exchange between the CJP and the PTI chairman that took place in the court today, and what Barrister was also referring to in terms of what we have seen as part of the court hearing. Do you think it was odd of the CJP to make those comments, to talk about how happy he is to see the PTI chairman, for example, and then also speak about the way that this is moving forward in terms of what exactly is going to happen with regards to the PTI chairman now, moving forward with the politicians, moving forward with dialogue, and to be able to proceed in this case? Is this usual as part of a hearing for a Chief Justice to make such comments? I just want to understand whether or not there's something odd about that.
Thank you, Sana. So, Sana, I think what my learned colleague earlier told me, so this appears to be a problem here. And the problem is that there's no doubt that he's the ex-Prime Minister and he's not an ordinary citizen, though in theory each and every citizen has equal rights and they should be treated equally by the law, before the law, and by the courts as well. So in that sense, that clearly has been violated. But I don't think that is in itself a problem, because sometimes very remarkable, very prominent citizens, they are persecuted, special sort of persecution, and that we saw in sort of the manner in which this arrest warrant was executed. An ordinary citizen would not have been those windows were broken, how rangers came along, so on and so forth. So I don't think this per se something that certain citizens, because due to the nature of their job or personalities, they are treated by law, sometimes in a good sense and sometimes in a bad sense. Sometimes they are persecuted. But what I really find odd is, and I think he's a former prime minister, he deserves certain respects. But we have seen that previous prime ministers, not many years ago, were treated really badly, shabbyly by this very court. And I have in my, there was me and Nawaz Sharif Saab, and then there was the chief minister. So I stand for respect of all representative of the people. So I think the problem is not that this is how he was treated, because no doubt he has been given extraordinary relief, because there appears to be a persecution. But my problem is that you cannot cherry pick. You cannot extend this extraordinary relief to this one person, head of one political party, and be an active collaborator against other political parties. And we have seen it done repeatedly throughout history of Pakistan, but particularly very recently, 4 or 5 years ago, an entire election was manipulated, and they hid behind the entire legal system in this very court. In fact, the Chief Justice himself was part of many of those benches, where they not only refused to extend the relief which was ordinarily extended, in fact, they went beyond the call of law, duty, and constitution to persecute the political leadership of this country very actively. One of the examples is Panama cases, how it was handled, how a monitoring judge was appointed. So, Sana, in my sense, my problem is not that why he was extended this relief and why ordinary citizens are not. My problem is that you cannot cherry pick once it comes to political leaders, because he's the prime minister, though some people even question how he was elected, but I wouldn't go there. But why is it that other prime ministers, he was arrested from a plane, and his daughter was persecuted, kept in a tiny cell, in jail? Another chief minister, at one point, the entire political leadership, so in recent history, two prime ministers, Shahid Khan Abbasi, spent many months in NAB's custody, and the remand was extended for 90 years. So no doubt, Sana, NAB is a draconian law. It is used to persecute politicians. It has been used to undermine democracy by the establishment, particularly the men in khaki. But but this guy, this very former prime minister, he was an active collaborator of this NAB law, and none of those politicians, they at least spent 90 days on average. They spent 15 to 16 months once they were hauled under this law. This is unprecedented in Pakistani history, that a person arrested under NAB law was released within 2 days. Sana, on average, I have been practicing NAB law for many years. You don't get out of NAB. If you are arrested, it takes you at least on average, the cases I have seen, it takes you on average 3 to 4 years to get out of NAB's custody. And we saw recently Shahid Khan Abbasi, Nawaz Sharif, Shehbaz Sharif, Hamza Shehbaz, politicians from People's Party, so on and so forth. So in that sense, I think it's very disappointing. And it is doubly disappointing that it is the same judge, this Honorable Chief Justice, has been part of this persecution that has been taken against the politicians, discredited our politics, it has discredited the political class, and it has undermined democracy. And now you can't just turn around and say, oh, look, you are elected representative, we are very sorry how how badly you have been mistreated, so on and so forth.
Farrukh, the decision today is being celebrated as a sign of victory by the PTI supporters and leaders. And of course, whoever has seen what has happened in the country in the past 2 days or so, or has an understanding what's going on, knows there's no real winner over here. And the country and the people have suffered a lot in the past 2 days and for much longer than that as well. In terms of what is going on and in terms of the way that we're talking about how obvious or apparent it is that there is extraordinary relief given to the PTI chairman, how is this particular decision then going to be looked at also in terms of the way that it's going to proceed in the courts, and then in terms of the way that it will impact the political dynamics of PTI with regards to the elections and whatever's going on in the country?
Right, Sana, listening to the two worthy guests, I was wondering why are they so shocked? Because repeatedly I heard that they have never seen anything like this. But what is there to be confused about? I mean, I might not be as close to the problem as both of them are. Both are barrister lawyers, and they are very close to the courts. The fact remains, Sana, that we are comparing apples and oranges. All citizens are not equal before this court. Nawaz Sharif and Imran Khan cannot be considered equal, because whenever Nawaz Sharif, Asif Ali Zardari or anybody else went to a court, no judge actually telegraphed this, that his presence actually warmed the cockles of his heart. And then at the end, he got a thumbs up and wish all the best as well. Secondly, when I was looking at the verdict itself, amazingly it tells us it is unlawful, especially the manner in which arrested. So why is it that the entire proceedings after the manner of execution of the order was cancelled? And why is it that we are actually going back to 0 point, starting point once again, and we are going to pretend that whatever kept on happening in the country did not happen, right? And then the Honorable Court, in its visible, infinite wisdom, also requested the gentleman to condemn if he can find the energy or the goodness in his heart to condemn whatever was happening the other day. And that I didn't hear that there was any condemnation. So the court, has this manner of behaving, particularly Justice Bandial's court. I think that perhaps you need a PhD from one of the spiritual universities of the country, especially the one that involves this case as well, that was to be built. Perhaps in that university, if you acquired a PhD, perhaps you could understand the wisdom of this Chief Justice. Then again, the verdict actually goes on to tell you where the petitioner is to be kept, how many people can be allowed to meet him, then which police officer should be responsible or how it should be conducted, which court should the petitioner go to, at what time he should be presented. I think it would have been great had he also included the menu of his food in this verdict as well. I mean, honestly, I have so little words to actually express the anger and frustration that I keep on feeling because of the kind of processes that keep on going. I think that it is very typical of the CJ that he inserts himself in a political controversy, and by doing that he actually plays on the inherent tribalism of the country. That actually helps him to bolster his stature within at least one wing of this society, and through that he consolidates his power. Today, one of the judges who has actually dissented in the past because he believes in human rights and civil liberties, he was also included. And then you saw that consolidation is already taking place. To hell with the national interest, to hell with national security. I mean, politics of Chief Justice Bandial Zindabad.
Right, absolutely, and understand the sentiment, and perhaps that is shared by many others in the country as well. And of course, Barrister Safi, we talk about the importance and need for justice, and this is what the people keep on expecting, and this is what is the basic requirement of the citizens of the country. And of course, political leaders and parties such as Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf keep on also championing about justice. But again, that's something that evades us. But in terms of what we are referring to again and again about the bench or the Chief Justice or the fact that there is a relief given to the PTI chairman, if it's so obvious and apparent, then the entire credibility of the institution and the court is put under question. And when that happens, how are we expecting any of the cases, not just against the PTI chairman, but others also with regards to the constitution or the political domain, have any real value to be added with regards to where we want the country to go?
Right. So I think with this order, we have to a large degree decided that we do not want to be a country that runs on the rule of law, because there is a very, very important insinuation that comes from this judgment, because he declared the entire warrant to be illegal. Therefore, if it was illegal and if it was void ab initio, which he has stated it is, resisting something illegal is a national duty. So anyone who came out to resist an illegality was then doing something out of patriotic spirit and was doing something that was good for the nation. So this would include all incidents that took place. This would include incidents of burning ED ambulances. This would include the incidents of burning the corps commander's house. This would include the incidents of killing people. Anything resistance, then if you are doing resistance in the aid of law, then it's lawful resistance. Then it's you have basically given a stamp of approval to all of that and not even spoken about it. And the fact that he has now given a stamp of approval to a mob and to mob violence, and he has shown to Pakistan that this is one very easy way of getting what you want. Come out on the streets and get a judgment of your liking. You may be doing what only TTP and Al-Qaeda have done in the past, which is attacking the GSU. Only these two parties other than PTI have had the privilege of doing so. But now, by giving judicial assent to it, they have opened up the doors of violence to every other party. Who is to now say that, you know, Maulana Fazlur Rahman, if he lands on the streets of Islamabad, starts taking out mobs and expects similar judgments, who is to say that People's Party would not do the same, or PMLN, or even Tehreek-e-Taliban? How is it that they, if they say that they enjoy a popular leadership, and if they say that they have the right ideas and the right mindset to fix Pakistan, why should they then be stopped? So I feel that because of this, now we have blurred the lines of what is to be considered right and what is to be considered wrong by thinking that popularity is the correct benchmark. And this is in the Chief Justice's perspective. He keeps saying that the leader of PTI is the most important leader, has in the past said that he's the only one honest man. So it's one man's perspective on who is popular, who is right, who is morally correct, and he will bend the law in any manner possible to ensure that it favors that one person, regardless of what anyone else might think. He will create benches in manners that he would like, and he would not only stop at creating benches in his court, he would order other courts to create benches that favor that one political leadership. So therefore, of course, I am sad, I am traumatized. I don't know what the future of law in Pakistan would be. Right. I can only hope and pray that better sense would prevail. I can only hope that tomorrow due respect is given to other institutions. I would need to just reiterate one thing. The fact that an act that was declared legal today was declared illegal today, was declared legal yesterday by the Parliament and also by the ISPR, who had sent rangers to do so. Now, for the first time, we see very clearly an absolute opposition of institutions, which we have never seen in Pakistan before to this degree. And this is why it's a matter of tremendous concern and a time when I feel like we really need some third-party solution. And you know, just before I sort of end this, I do want to say that the way the Chief Justice has, of course, like Pitafi was mentioning, was suggested that, you know, Imran Khan should go back home, enjoy. He even these were words said that, you know, he should go enjoy, chat with his friends, go to sleep. and take a walk if he wants to. Things like these, I think, just go on to show how non-serious the attitude is towards the larger political questions that Pakistan is facing at the moment.
Right, absolutely. And of course, when we talk about popularity, perhaps it's also perceived popularity, as Farrukh keeps on pointing at the show as well. There's no real poll that's been ever conducted to find out what really is with regards to popularity, the truth. But Mr. Usama, the question with regards to legality, something I want to explore a bit further. In terms of what is the order states, of course, is the manner of the arrest. But when we talk about whether or not this has happened before, we've seen instances happen in the past. But again, of course, that may not be enough to just point towards the legality of something. I want to understand, when we talk about the manner of the arrest, and even if it was illegal, what does it mean in terms of the arrest itself? I understand that the order doesn't say that, but in terms of whether or not the arrest itself was legal, and in case that the manner is illegal and the arrest is legal, which one takes precedence?
So, Sana, honestly speaking, so the order in itself, if we just don't look at the context, and which would be very stupid to not look at the context. But let's for the moment forget the context, the broader political legal context. So in that sense, if we were to adopt, and this is a well-established jurisprudence in US, which is called the fruit of poisonous tree. That's a legal concept. So if the manner itself was illegal and unconstitutional, so then the arrest could not have been sustained. So we are still waiting for the detailed reasons, which the court has not issued yet. The court has not explained, but I am assuming, and considering one of the justices, Justice Atar Manila, he has taken a very consistent stance. He has been extending reliefs to both the sides. So if you don't look at the context, jurisprudentially, this order could be justified. But having said that, I don't think in Pakistani context, in our context and recent past, without looking at the context, this order could be justified. So in that sense, I would say we still have to wait for the reasons. But because ultimately it boils down to, this question is no longer, and as Pitafi Saab, and we have spoken in this program a lot, that these questions are not legal questions per se, and that's an unfortunate reality. These are political questions, and this is a phenomenon in Pakistan which is called judicialization of politics. These are essentially political questions that have been judicialized, and that these wars are being fought in the courts, which should be rather fought on streets and the ballot papers, so on and so forth. So in that sense, going back to what Safi was saying, I think the real blame lies in our history, because people no longer have faith in these institutions. There's the credibility, what you asked about. The credibility of our system is at stake, and it has been going on for a while, Sana. This very same establishment, they wanted a popularly elected prime minister out, and they wanted to bring someone else in, and they manipulated the entire legal system. We saw it right in front of our eyes. It's not like some ancient history. This happened very recently. So in that sense, to talk about and just look at it from legal perspective, lawyers and law is a hired gun. You cannot interpret and see the law, how it functions, without the politics surrounding it. And in Pakistani context, I think we have to name that who is primarily responsible for this rot. What we are seeing, this did not, what happened today, it did not happen in just one day. It has a history, and the history is that our establishment has thoroughly manipulated our judicial system. Whenever it suits them, they pick out a letter of law, and whenever it doesn't, they manipulate. And we have an example of a High Court judge, Sana, Justice Shaukat, saying that how he was being pressurized by the establishment against our former prime minister at that time. And similarly, we recently saw what happened with Justice Qadi Faiz Isa. So in that sense, I think it's a time for the establishment that chickens have come home to roost, and these judges who were refusing to toe their line. It's just like it has been coming for a while. So in that sense, I think the credibility of our legal system, of our judiciary, has been thoroughly discredited, and it pains me as a citizen and as also a lawyer, a practitioner, that where it appears that the cases, they are not decided on the basis of law. They are decided on extraneous considerations, what in law we call, and this is one of the great disservice that the establishment and our higher judiciary, constitutional judiciary, that they have been active since the since the very founding of Pakistan, and they continue to do so. And if we were to restore this credibility, then I think a truth and realization sort of mechanism where you have to admit your past mistakes, and only then we can move forward. And even Khan, I think it's even now this is about time that Imran Khan has been extended this extraordinary relief, needs to come clean with his past and acknowledge that the political persecution that he ruthlessly carried out, and how the system was manipulated, and other parties, government and all the other parties, they need to because we no longer have a consensus on the very basic rules of games. And what has happened in the last few years, it is a breakdown of that very consensus of what should be the rules, basic rules of the games is. And some of people are very smart. People know that who is the root cause of this problem, and you have seen that where people's anger has been focused, they have not focused on
Further, Osama, Farrukh, the situation whenever we talk about change, there are so many fundamentals and perhaps abstract things that are spoken about that it becomes difficult to understand how we're even going to move in that direction. And even now, as Mr. Osama was talking about consensus, I was trying to understand whether or not that actually does exist, whether or not it is who to blame or who's responsible for whatever situation we are in today. In terms of where we go ahead from here, in perhaps more specific terms, do you see any action that can be taken that can help the system or the institution or the kind of problems that we're trying to highlight and understand here? Because at the moment it seems that that's not where it's heading.
No, the answer is no. I keep on telling you, abandon all hope, and there's a reason. You know, I'm no apologist to the country's civil military history. I'm neither, an apologist for the past collusion between the so-called establishment and judiciary. But at this moment, if you bring up this matter and then you say that chicken have come home to roost, you end up actually building up, some strange kind of image of the Chief Justice, who just then, according to this narrative, had his fanboy moment today in the court. The fact is that if he is really for this political party, then we are in all this mess because a court actually opened at the stroke of midnight, and it actually allowed ensured the sacking of a prime minister, the very same prime minister. It also shows you how easy PTI is to manipulate when it comes to this kind of emotional angling. But the honest fact is that Chief Justice has actually taken away, robbed me of all hope for this country, right? In the past 1 year, the way the conduct has been going on, and I've been repeatedly pointing this out, it breaks my heart. I am a person who, for past 15 years, despite many bad things, I kept on parroting, and praising the Supreme Court of Pakistan and the judiciary. But the kind of mannerism that has been involved of late, Qazi Faiz was mentioned. It all actually starts from Qazi Faiz and his persecution. when Saqib Nisar and his fellow judges, some of them, which included the current fanboy, you know, all of them actually aligned together and kept on persecuting the man. And after that, they have ensured, when the Chief Justice became Chief Justice, that Qazi Faiz Isa is marginalized, persecuted. And since then, what has been happening is that initially they thought that Imran Khan has not been able to sack the man despite the reference. So why not actually take a chance and remove Imran Khan or side with the people who are removing him, so that you further consolidate your position. But the problem was, all of a sudden Imran Khan became very popular, and then they ended up on the wrong side of history, or they thought they did. So immediately what they start doing is, in Article 63A, they start legislating, which is not job of the judiciary. And we are in this mess, especially the 14 May mess, because of their misinterpretation of law, because of their legislating. Just let me give you an example of today's conduct. Today we were told that the arrest was, the manner of arrest was unlawful. Now, when I look at the arguments or articles that I have mentioned, they are Article 4, 9, 10A, 14. Now tell me, which of these actually tells you what actually qualifies as the, you know, the area of Supreme Court or any court for that matter, and how does it actually tell you how to conduct an arrest of a person? It doesn't. It is once again legislation through fiat, and that continues even to this day. And that is why we have seen that even today, when the bench was fixed, the Chief Justice actually decided that the bench is going to be, you know, have two versus one like-minded judges, you know, majority, and he continues to do that. Today, when Justice Athar Minallah actually, you know, tried to fix responsibility, he actually once again was snubbed, that we are not actually hearing that case. Amazingly, this is the gang of judges that have actually, in a CCPO's case, they actually summoned the Chief Election Commissioner, and today they were not hearing the case of arson in the country. I mean, look at this sad state of affairs. You tell me, do you see any hope, Sana? I don't. And no matter whatever happens, you know, there's one very easy corrective measure. It goes everything against, you know, every, you know, teachings that we had. And that is somehow some kind of military takeover, something of that sort. But do you know what will happen after that? Whatever happens to them, it will also remove effectively Qazi Faiz Isa and other justices who have been standing with the principles of justice. Because of that, we are in a serious mess. I mean, I can go on saying that establishment has done this or that, but in the past 10, 20 years, especially after Pervez Musharraf left, all I remember is people dying every day. I have buried my friends with my own hands who have actually sacrificed for this country. I mean, we can criticize army, we can criticize anybody if we are to be a democracy, and I am just criticizing judiciary also. We can do whatever we want. But the humble submission at this moment is, when you are being guarded by people who are dying for you, you don't demoralize them. And the way the attack took place at the residence of, you know, Corps Commander, and let me remind you, I don't know whether I've told you or not, when Quaid-e-Azam's Ziyarat residency was burned down, I could not sleep for 2 days, 2 nights, Sana. It was so depressing. Whatever happened to the perpetrators, they were actually brought to book. But this time again, the house was not only occupied by an army officer, it was Quaid-e-Azam's house, and it was ransacked. Do you think that I am, no matter what happens, I'm going to forget this insult to my state, my memory, my identity? I'm not. And the fact that CJ actually makes light of this should be something that should shame us all.
Right, absolutely. I understand that. Barrister Safi, the situation with regards to how the courts have proceeded and what the CJP keeps on talking about, of course, is there. But there's also, again, something that was discussed in the courts with reference to what the PTI chairman needs to do next in terms of his political behavior, is that he needs to also proceed with dialogue, and this is what is the expectation of the people that follow him, and that for the peace and safety of the country, this is what needs to happen. Again, we saw that previously also there was a direction by the Supreme Court for the political parties to engage in dialogue, which was criticized by the parliamentarians and said that this was not the jurisdiction of the courts to talk about the manner. Irrespective of that, when we take a look at the situation that exists today, what sort of value is even there with the court even saying that to the PTI chairman? And then whether or not, given the lack of trust by the parliamentarians in the court, and of course with the way that the PTI chairman has behaved and spoken about institutions, how is that the current political setup will ever consider dialogue? Do you think that's still a possibility?
Absolutely not. I feel like this is a very Punjabi thing that's going on. So the Chief Justice is perhaps from a Punjabi tribe, well-known name. And within the areas of Punjab, before there was British common law and before there was a formal legal system, there was this concept of panchayats. And all you do is just you'd call a person and you'd tell them to sit and you'd discuss them, and you'd force them to sit and discuss, and sometimes you'd make somebody give their sister in marriage to somebody else, and that's how they used to legislate, and that's how they used to adjudicate on disputes. And it looks like the Chief Justice has just carried that forward into the national arena. He's forcing two people to sit together whether they want to or not. And
charity begins at home. Start with Qazi Faiz Isa.
So
bring him on board.
Even if
let us have a panchayat in the Supreme Court.
No, there are ways of alternate dispute resolution. There are mediations. There are things that can be done. So if he wants, for instance, to be a mediator, he can assign, he can make a commission, and he can make a mediation commission. He has the power to do that. There are things that can be done in a much more formalized, in a much better manner, so that we can also understand where the problem is. So even alternate dispute resolutions are now they have rules and they have mechanisms, and for instance the Islamabad High Court recently even trained a whole bunch of lawyers on alternate dispute resolution. Much needed, and I am not going to dispute that, but the panchayat system is different from
sorry to cut you, but can that be applied to the Supreme Court benches as well?
Of course not. I think
why can't there be some kind of
ensuring trying to have senior politicians sit and decide matters of national interest this way is downright absurd. But because it's a matter of their own choice, these are representative of the people. If the people want them to sit and negotiate, people will say it. If the people of Pakistan now want the government to go and sit with the Taliban and negotiate a deal with the TTP, perhaps they will start voting for people who want to say that. If they don't want that, then they will also vote for people who stand against terrorism and Al-Qaeda and TTP. You can't negotiate with everyone. And that's what the problem is, for him to think that they must negotiate and that negotiations must be successful. He has emphasized time and again that he is looking for some sort of an outcome. Why should there be an outcome? I don't understand why you're forcing two people to marry when they don't want to, and that's perhaps something that once again comes from the panchayati mindset that's being
panchayati mindset, or there's something else also going on. There were rumors that if PTI returns to power, there's going to be an extension that is to be given to him for 2 years or 3 years. If that doesn't transpire, maybe he's going to be made the president. So there is some benefit to all this. I mean, I can see the point of view, economy of ideas, right?
We don't know that. So, and I don't want to say that either. But what we do know is that
Khaja Tariq Rahim's audio leak actually came, and he has predicted how things are going to go ahead, right? If things go differently tomorrow, I will concede your point. Otherwise, all these rumors are coming from the same quarter.
I think we'll have to probably agree to something that has been said by a lot of other senior politicians, which is that his daughter is a very active member of the PTI.
I don't want to go to kids.
No, but it's true, and there's a lot of evidence that shows that people can be manipulated by their families. It's unfortunate. These are things that we are, after all, humans. We can have biases. And his mother-in-law
and that bias actually involves Justice Munib Akhtar and Ijazul Hasan as well, because somehow he has some kind of bond for them as well.
Of course, and
it seems. I mean,
without getting into details of whose family is doing what, we do hear a lot of these audio leaks.
Sana will have to come to my rescue because she keeps on, disciplining me every time I say that, Imran Khan Saab is a good man, his advisor are bad, and she says that where is his own agency? So, I mean, come on. Let us talk about agency then.
Absolutely, but I understand the point that Barrister Safi, you're also trying to make in terms of what happens and what should not. But Mr. Usama, let me also include you in the discussion. When we take a look at the situation in terms of what you said earlier, also with the people being very smart and trying to, and understanding what is going on. Of course, when we talk about the way that we want the country to progress and proceed, it is the people who will have to hold their leaders and decision makers, the institutions, the judges, everyone accountable in terms of what is going on. But we've seen a lot of input coming in with the way that the mobs and protesters have reacted, the kind of actions that have taken place and the kind of understanding they have. It doesn't seem to be the case when we take a look at what the protesters were acting or behaving in a way that they understand who the target is, or they understand the political nuances of the country and what is going on. Do you think that that is not correct, and that the people at large know what is going on and are behaving in a way that that they want the country to proceed?
Sana, I'm really glad that you have brought up this question. So, apart from being a student of law, I'm also a very keen student of history, especially political history. So, I think the way historically mobs and political movements proceed, they are not sanitized, they are not disciplined forces. So in that sense, people have way of getting out their anger in different manners. And you start off from one of the modern revolutions, is French Revolution, and the political progress is never a straight line, it's a crooked path. So what I meant by that people being understanding very intuitively there what the real problem is. And I think, without elaborating too much, people have pretty much understood. I'm not going to sit here and justify their actions legally. They're like illegal actions, and some might. But I think politically, people have a very solid understanding. They have shown remarkable astuteness. By and large, then what the real problem of this country is. They immediate in terms of immediacy, they might not be on the right side. They might, for example, they're on the Imran Khan and his supporters. But people have understood what Mao called the principal contradiction in this society, in our state. People have shown a remarkable understanding that what is the principal contradiction in the society, in the state, and that we cannot progress until and unless we resolve this principal contradiction which we inherited from our colonial masters. And this principal contradiction has been going on for at least 100 years in this country, and that is the ultimate cause of this tremendous instability, that musical chair that we see going on. You pluck out one party, you raise artificial pygmies, make them giants, they come back to bite you, and then that causes a whole range of problems ranging from economy to terrorism and so on and so forth. So in that sense, it has been very directed sort of focus, and that remarkable political astuteness that the people have shown, I have nothing else than respect for their astuteness. I think that this should be sufficient.
Right,
Yeah,
thank you. It is Usama. Yes, Farrukh, you want to add something at the end? As
Very
always.
simply,
Yes.
they say in Punjabi, "Padhe likhe haram ke taas." Whatever I've learned, I feel that it is useless. And I vow to go back for re-education, either to Al-Qadir University or Bahria Town University. Once I go there, perhaps I can understand the politics of my CJ.
All right. Thank you, Farrukh. Thank you very much, Barrister Safi, for joining us. Thank you, Mr. Usama, Khawar, Ghumman, for joining us and being a part of the discussion. As always, that's all we have from the debate. See you tomorrow.